Hello everyone and welcome to Tech Tactics Live episode 26. Today we're going to be talking about something that's probably not really on the front of your mind most of the time, much like checking your gutters on your house. But today we're going to talk about it because we don't want it to become an issue. Normally this kind of stuff, right? Water is not a big deal. It's good for your body. But when it comes to your car, we usually think about water and rust. And that's bad too, but we're going to talk about today drain tubes in your Porsche. Before we get into it, I want to make sure that we thank Pirelli, the Tech Tactics Live sponsor. I want to thank Richard Halver, who brought this Macan that we're going to be talking about later. And of course, be sure to hit that like button for us. We really would appreciate it. If you're watching live with us tonight, be sure to put your name and your region and where you're from in the live chat area. And of course, we always welcome comments about the subject or maybe even just how to make the show better. 2 raffle prizes tonight. If you've joined us before, you'll know there's chances to win things. We have this heavy duty folding aluminum platform for someone. And we also have a 11-piece trim molding toolkit. And I thought those 2 pieces or those 2 prizes would be appropriate for tonight's show because that's the type of stuff that you're going to need to address these drain tubes. Here in Maryland, it's soggy out. It's been raining, being April rains, and it's raining right now. That's why this Macan here is wet. But tonight we're going to bring 3 cars, and we have Peter Smith, technical committee member, as well as a Goldmeister technician. This is your 3rd time on Tech Tactics Live, so welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, I will say I also appreciate the wonderful light that you're using because last time I made fun of you that you were kind of sitting in the dark.
Well, you said I look better in the dark, so what the heck.
All right, well, we have 3 cars to go over. You're going to show us what happens when drain tubes get clogged and all that sort of stuff. But I'm going to warn you that there will be graphic content. So you're going to see some stuff, Porsche equipment that's going to be a little scary, but it's going to be definitely informative. So as we walk through all 3 cars, we're going to answer a few of these questions. I think we have an agenda. Do all Porsches have water drains? Which models are the worst offenders? Where are the water drains located? What happens when they become clogged and how to clear them? Can you total a car due to clogged drains? How do you inspect it? How do you clear it? Can you do it, or is it a job for a professional? So we're going to answer those throughout the evening. We have only an hour as usual, and to be able to walk through all 3 cars, we're going to have to hustle. I will be carrying my phone here, so if you guys are asking questions on live chat, I'll try to monitor that, as well as we have some of the staff here at PCA headquarters that will also throw some questions out to me, and we'll get them answered for you. So it looks like we have about 83 people here. And Peter, do you want to let's go ahead and get hopping on a Macan, and let's talk about how often do you come across drains being clogged on customers' cars?
It seems like with the Macans is probably one of the worst offenders that we have. I think it has a lot to do with the way they design the drains and how they're supposed to work. They actually have a little stopper at the end to kind of keep, I think, little animals and rodents to getting back into it. The problem is they get clogged up with dirt and such, and then they don't open. So as it rains more, the tubes back up, and then they end up watering the back of your car to where your battery location and spare tires in the back of the car turns into a little lake back there. Now, the worst offenders are actually any of the cars that have the panoramic roofs. I think there's more ingress of dirt to get around the seals than there is on a smaller sunroof. You got a bigger panel you've got that moves around, so you can get a lot more dirt down in the guide rails on the sides. As the sunroof's open or closed, dirt will still get past it and through and get to the drains in the back of the car. The front is not really a problem, but just around the back there, all that little seal around is just to seal the glass, but dirt does get around it. Even you just tilt it up just for little air ingress, you're going to get dirt coming into there with mixture with water. It almost turns into mud, and then it dries in the tube, and then you've got after another good rain or car wash, you've got a a mess in the back of the car, and you won't even notice it for a while. Sometimes you'll have issues because water will drip on the control units in the back of the car, especially on the right-hand side. There's a lot of electrical components back there, and you'll have error messages, and you wonder what's going on. But, every once in a while, if you want to make sure that things aren't dripping and getting into the back of the car, you can open up the battery compartment underneath, and if you lift up the rear hatch below, like you're going to get your spare tire out, there's another little cover that you can open up, and you can actually see down below and try to get an idea of how wet the area is down on the bottom there.
Now I got, my Cayenne, I park outside 100% of the time, and with the fall leaves and such in Maryland, it's easy to see how, even if it's not a big leaf that's like clogged in the normal sense, but it sits in a corner of the cowl or something like that, and it starts to degrade and becomes like a fine silt, and that just constantly starts adding towards the clog. And again, just like gutters of your house, you don't really notice it until there's a problem. And unfortunately, because these newer cars have so many electrical wires and computers and stuff that's sitting low on the car, like you can't let it get to that problem. Like if you notice there's water dripping, or if you notice that your windows fog up at night, as the temperature drops, it's because you have all this extra moisture in the car. Like that's almost kind of like too late, right? I mean, what do you tell the customers?
You need to get on it right away. I've had quite a few cars that came in and there's like, I've got this warning on my dash, or my spoiler doesn't go down, or my taillights are on all the time. And the first thing I do is I push especially on the 997s and the Boxsters, I just push the seat forward on the driver's side, and I just pick up the carpet at the footwell on the back side, and typically it's soaked. And the bad thing is with those cars is they actually put the rear end control unit and the alarm control units on the floor right below the driver, and the amps are on the passenger side, to where if any water gets in there, you've bought an alarm control unit or you bought a rear end control unit, and the time and money. The alarm control unit on the Boxsters and the 996s and 997s is some of the worst things to pay for, because now you're buying an alarm control unit, and then your key remotes won't work most likely too. And now you've got to buy 2 keys. You have to get an alarm control unit put in the car. You have to have everything coded, and you're probably spending almost $1,000 just for something like that, just because you got water in the back of the car.
And I know we have more, I guess, modern cars tonight, but certainly we have a question from, let me see here, Jim Podesva, talking about sunroof drains in a 928. And so even, the older coupes, the 944s and such, they all have drains too, right? That you technically should be watching after as well.
They do, but on those older cars, they didn't really have the little stoppers at the end of them to get plugged up, which was one of the best things. So water would just freely flow through them. The newer cars now, there's a video I have later of a couple videos of what happens when they stop up. But it's just like you're pinching off the end of a straw, and then the water's supposed to force the end open, and sometimes it doesn't do that. But with the older cars, they were pretty much just straight out the back of the car or out the front of the car. You didn't have to worry about that kind of problem that they have with the rubber nowadays.
Interesting. So I'm going to attempt to walk around the car, and Damon's got a camera over there as well. So starting from front to back, like I know on my Cayenne, which we'll look at it later, there was a cowl drain that I had to clear. Is that the same for a Macan?
Correct.
Okay. And this also have the plug behind the fender liner that you would kind of reach in?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
We haven't seen that many problems with these cars. They made the drains a little bit easier to get water out of them.
Okay.
So just like the earlier Cayennes were a lot of problem, where they just really stopped everything up. Panameras also too, Boxsters, anywhere that you can get leaves into the front firewall area there, that's where you're going to see a lot of issues. Just like the newer 991s right now, if you take off the cowling there, you can almost see the ground or the bottom under tray. They've opened that area up so much. It's not really an enclosed area anymore like on the newer cars.
I have a little tip to figuring out if your drain is partly plugged. If it has rained, let's say like today it's rain and tomorrow it's dry, and you've driven your car, let's say, and you come home and you still see, like on my Cayenne, I noticed that there was still a watermark behind the front tire. And with Cayennes, you're kind of worried typically about coolant leaks or coolant pipe leaks and stuff like that. but this was like in an odd location. And what I found out, and again, we'll show pictures later, was that there was like a pool of water in my cow that my drain wasn't completely plugged, but it was plugged enough where it would just slowly drip. So it would rain, fill up sort of the cavity and hold like an amount of water. The next day, everything would be dry, driveway would be dry, but it would still continue to just drop, 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 drop. And then that was sort of my cue that I think there's water in my car somewhere. And, sometimes it's even more obvious than that, where you climb into your car after it's been, baking in the sun or something like that, and you just get that musty, mildewy smell. That's when it's actually kind of pretty bad, right? So what about the drains up in you had mentioned the panoramic roof. Like, do you open it, and are there drains in there how do you clear it? How do you clean it? What do you recommend to people?
Well, like on the front, you can actually see, if you put the sunroof back, you can actually see 2 little holes on either side. And to see if they're actually working or not, of course, you need like a little step ladder or such.
Let me hold on 1 second. I want to ask the owner, Richard. Would you mind joining us? Could you grab your key and just open the panoramic roof? The key is on the right back there. Okay. That way, maybe we can give people a close-up look here. So John Riley wrote in as Richard is opening here. John Riley, those stoppers that are in these fender liners and stuff, do you recommend cutting them, taking them off? I know when I did mine, so there's like a slight opening from the factory. I just took a pair of clippers and I just cut, to make the hole bigger. But I hear some people take those off completely. What do you recommend?
On the Cayennes, we were taking them off completely. The Macans, we haven't seen that much of a problem with it in the front. They've got a better design. But one of the reasons why they put those there is so little animals don't crawl back into that cowling area there and create nests and make a big mess of things.
Yeah. I'm going to set down this little handy dandy step ladder so Damien can get up there and kind of show, maybe you can guide him to where to look.
Yeah, it's going to be right on the corners.
Okay, so right on the corner.
Yeah, if you push that down.
Dave, can you push this down? Yep.
And and you should be able to see something where your fingers are to the left-hand side, right in the corner there.
Okay.
It might be hard to see actually.
Okay, but that's where the drain starts.
Yeah, that's where the drain starts, and it goes along the A-pillars down to the bottom there.
So
what we do to see if they're working or not, we actually just put, we pour water in that area there where his fingers were at, and see if actually water goes down and drain. That's how we determine if we have leaks or not, or if it's filling up. Mm-hmm. So you pour water into it and watch it drain out, and see if it comes down and hits the floor, like you were saying. If it drains out, it's okay. If it doesn't, a lot of times we get air and we blow air through it. But you got to be real careful, because if it's really plugged up and you put too much air in it, you'll blow the hose off the end of the sunroof frame, and then you got to take the A-pillar out and then reattach the hose. It's really hard to kind of clean them out fully. Usually not a whole lot of stuff gets clogged up into it to where it's like you have to replace it or pull them out completely, make fishing lines, something like that, to where you can put it down the tube and try to clear out any of the dirt or clogs that are in it.
Yeah, but like you said, you want to be very careful using too much pressure or using something too sharp and accidentally puncture that line somewhere in the A-pillar, or you disconnect something in the A-pillar, and then you're really kind of ruined. So you have to be very careful.
The headliner has to come down, and to try to get to the tubes. If the tube has come off, there's another video we're going to show later where it shows where a tube actually came off in the back of a Macan, and the kind of the waterfall that the customer had in the back of his car.
I think we got that video. Let's show that.
That's not it. Close.
So that is the video of the rear
of a Macan. There's the waterfall.
That's the waterfall coming out. Oh my goodness. That can't be good.
No.
And so was that clogged, or was that like a disconnected hose?
The hose came off.
The hose came off.
So at the factory, they didn't put it on very well.
Oh, wow. Oh. So I think we have some aftermath photos of what happens when you get too much water in the back of your Macan. I think that was that the battery photo, Peter?
There's a few battery photos I sent. There's one with a lot of rust on a battery, and there's a harness sitting in there too. That's after I had the car pretty much taken apart. You can see all the dirt and rust. And it actually ruined the harness back there. I had to take the whole. Now that picture right there is a frozen battery. This came out of Texas actually, and it had enough water back there, and then it froze. They had to wait for the car to thaw out before they can work on it.
Wow. So that is high up there. It's not a little bit of water. It is gallons of water.
A few gallons of water. Yes, exactly. And it can go up pretty high to where if you see water where the spare tire is, you got a problem. Because the spare tire's on that little shelf.
Robert, go back to that other picture, the one previous to this one. Nope. 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 There was one where you could see the back of trunk with like a couple, that one there. So I see that water line, right? So where the rust kind of goes up almost to that ledge. Like if it had gotten higher where that little module is, I can't imagine how much it would cost and damage it would cause if that module got, so.
Well, that car actually got a whole harness in the back. There's another picture I have with the old and new harnesses in there where I had to take the whole, there you go. That's the harnesses I had to replace.
So because of that rear damage, you had to replace all of that harnesses in the middle of the car too?
Because it damaged an airbag connector that they use in the back to disable the battery in case of an accident. Yeah. And you do not repair airbag connectors as far as safety reasons go. So if you have a 10-set connector that goes bad, you're putting a whole harness in it. At least we are.
All right, so I warned you guys that are watching that you were going to see some pretty horrific things, and something as simple as cleaning your drains or making sure your drains are clear, if you don't, could lead to some serious issues. And so it's good for you to hear it now as opposed to it happening to your own car. So let's do this. Is there anything else we want to talk about this Macan before we switch it for the Cayenne, Peter?
Well, I had that one video that I showed where I had a video of cutting the little tube in the back if people want to try that.
Okay, yep.
So I just snip them off, give it a little V, and then pull off the center, and this way now it'll drain out.
Okay.
Those come out on either side of the Macans. The covers come off, and it's a pretty good amount of area to get into. So you can actually pull them out, and get a good flashlight to see where they are. Take them out, cut them off, put them back in. I use a tube of silicone dielectric grease to put them back into place. It makes it a lot simpler. It's like Crisco. I mean, it's just make it to slide right back into place. But we've had a couple of them where, I actually had one car where they did not even put the hose into the hole. The hole was like plugged up still. They never pulled the plug out and never put the hose in, and it flooded out the whole back of the car. The car had like 200 miles on it.
Wow.
So he had just got it in the wintertime, and we came back.
So
what happened here?
Robert, did we have that picture of that grease he was talking about? I think it was like a little bottle, just so that people can see. So that's the paste you were talking about, to make it easier to pull the plugs in.
Yes. Well, look at that pretty icon back there.
Oh, that is nice. Very nice. You definitely don't want water inside that car.
No, negative.
All right, so we're gonna, folks, we're live, so we're gonna close this car up. We're gonna switch it out and bring in a Cayenne, so we can talk about that. I do have a few questions that we can answer while they're switching cars. Damon, he's moving the ladder and he's gonna open up the garage. So we have a question from Richard Bedingfield. Have a 996 cab. Are the rubber bumpers in the floor a part of the drain system, or is this covered through hole? Just asking because I gutted soaked carpet. 996 cab.
Yeah, those painted covers are just part of the assembly process. I think those are jigs that they use. So they just, they assemble the car, and then once they get to a point, those plugs go in, and then they paint over them. So there's no real drain. Once water's in the car, there's no drain in that car. We actually pull the carpet out. Technically, if we've got a water leak in the car, pull the center console out, we take the seats out, we pull out the carpeting, and I let them hang in a corner someplace and let them drip dry, basically.
Some viewers mentioned, Penny specifically mentioned, do you recommend putting some sort of screen in the drains?
The problem is you can't get to them. The front ones you can get to, you can see it, but it's hard to say what you're going to put in there. I think some people, I probably wouldn't do that, because if the screen gets plugged up just a little bit with dirt, it's going to end up in the car.
I would agree with you. I wouldn't do the screens. I would just simply clear them out often and just cut the ends of them so that the output of those little plugs are just larger. I think screens might actually create more of a problem.
I think the biggest issue is that people that leave their cars outside underneath the trees. All that stuff falls off the trees and ends up on top of your car. If you park your garage out in the open or in a garage, you will probably never, ever have a problem like this. It's people that park their cars underneath trees that get dirt on them, and it rains, and then the dirt from the leaves, end up, on the car, on the roof, and get into places.
Okay, so garage kept cars, probably not much of an issue.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. John Riley asks, where is the problem area on Panameras?
The Panameras, the big problem with the Panameras is the rear spoiler assembly, because that spoiler comes up and comes down, and there's drains. If you open up the back deck lid and look like where the tail light, where the marker lights are for the license plate, you'll see these little slots there. So
did we clear? Sorry, hold 1 second. Did we clear the back, Damon? Will the garage door close? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry. the back of the Panamera spoiler assembly will pack up with dirt, and water will get into it. And it'll end up flooding back in the car where the battery is, and there's a couple of fuse boards there and a bunch of relay boards back there.
Wow. Okay. All right, folks. Ta-da! Switched out cars, and now we have, this is an E1 Cayenne. This is actually mine. So you've seen this before on other shows. Actually, I thought it would be a lot dirtier. Only one leaf here, but normally this car is just. What'd you say? Same. Usually it's filled during the fall. It's filled with leaves here, and then it gets, it just falls. I don't know. Probably this side is a better one to show. Actually, this makes sense. So this side here has this opening, so leaves can actually or debris can get down there. And so remember I told you about how I noticed there was a little bit of water dripping in front of the driver's side, and so I pulled the fender. Actually, I took off the wheel. Some people don't take off the wheel. I took off the wheel just to make sure I had plenty of access. Took off the wheel, stuck my hand behind the fender liner here, and you can see. I think we have some pictures, some Cayenne pictures that I took when I did the drains, Robert, and you can see the drain. No, not the inside one. That's inside. So there's the one with the fender. Nope, keep going. Keep going. Nope, that's inside. That's the rear. Keep going. Nope. Nope, that's the rear. So we'll get to it. He'll keep scrolling. But anyways, the plug down here, you can reach in and you can actually grab it. And when I grabbed it on the other side, on the driver's side, literally it just tons of water and just junk came out of it. And I tried to reach up there and just tried to clean, and there was so much sludge and gross debris. Robert, do you have that folder with that I sent for this car? Okay, well, that's all right. So anyways, make sure you keep those clear. Now, along the sides of the Cayenne, there are drains too, right, Peter?
Yes.
So, but it's difficult on this particular version, and I think also on turbos, or if you have running boards. So down here, so there's a drain actually under here that you would kind of poke, but I can't poke it because it's actually hidden by this panel. So I haven't done it yet, but I need to remove this panel and clear the drains on the side. And there's some videos on YouTube that you can see where people poke that and it comes out like someone's pouring a pitcher of water. So if you're driving your car and you making a turn or coming to a stop and you hear sloshing, that is actually water in your floorboards. So if you hear anything like that, you want to make sure you take a look at those drains. All right, so let me see if we can't get to the back here. As I'm making my way back, I know someone had a question about, when I take my car to the dealer, is it a normal practice for the dealer to service the drains, or do I have to ask them to do it? Is there some sort of cost involved?
That really depends on the dealer. And if you look at the maintenance procedures that come in with your car, it might actually be in your owner's manual, maintenance manual. It'll tell you that you're supposed to clear your drains at the services that you do. It's not every service. It's probably like every 20,000 miles. You want to make sure the drains are clear.
Yeah.
So that's typically part of the service on the vehicle. And you can technically also too, if you're bringing it in and you got a concern, I would ask them, you're going to clean the drains on this service too, correct?
Yeah.
And see what the answer is. And a lot of times if you ask that you want them cleaned, they will make sure that they are clean so you don't have this problem down the road.
Yeah, and it's totally worth it. Again, if your car is usually outside and you're parked under trees or it's exposed to possible debris, you want to ask. So right now we're at the back end of the Cayenne, and I don't know if you can see it through Damon's shot, but there is a plug that sits right below the taillights, and it's and that one you can actually just reach up there and cut with a pair of scissors or a pair of little electrical cutters or something, just make that. There's a pinch at the end of that tube, and I just cut it so it's wide open. Is that what you would recommend, Peter?
Yeah, we haven't had that many problems with the Cayennes. I mean, generally they're pretty well. I guess I think we've had one or two where water have gotten into the back on the E2s, the E2 generation cars, 2011 and newer, till 2018, and it seems like it's always on the right hand side, and it takes out the amplifier for the stereo.
Oh, wow.
And of course it's the cars with the panoramic roofs that we see this issue with.
Yeah. So do you this particular car is a 2006. The drain hoses or the lines that come down, like what material are those made of, and do the tubes themselves deteriorate?
I've never seen the tubes themselves deteriorate. They're actually like rubber. They're pliable. You can bend them around. They sit in little slots that they have for the tubes to go up and from the roof down to the bottom of the car. So like that one video that we showed with the Macan, it's all basically the same way with the Cayenne too. The older cars, like the 911s and the old 911s and the 928s, 944s, they used hard plastic.
Okay.
Which didn't move around at all. So those were a pain. If something went wrong, you had an issue trying to change those.
Okay. I think we've got, what's this here?
Yeah, this is a drain from Macan that I took out, and I'm just squeezing it, and all the dirt stuff is coming out and on the ground, and now it's draining like it should.
Wow.
But that had water in the car, and you shouldn't have anything coming out of it when you squeeze the hose. But we had a lot of.
So was that clog just right at the tip, and that's why when you opened it up, it was able to release all that water?
Correct. I don't know why it's the dirt and such, but it's almost like the rubber at the end, they're kind of glued itself together.
Yeah.
I think it's just designed where they don't want anything climbing up inside the car, spiders, bugs, whatever, but then it gets to a point where the water can't get out.
Yeah, I'd rather take spiders in my interior than having water back up into the interior. So so I made my choice. I just cut across those tips and let it flow. All right, so I think we've got our winners of the prizes. So congratulations to Gary from NNJR. You've won the aluminum platform, and congratulations to Jennifer. We know Jennifer, she's a local Chesapeake region member, and she's won the trim molding kit. All right, so anything else about the Cayenne we need to know or you want to share?
Well, one thing that's really important, especially, is the checking your carpets to see if they're wet or not.
Oh, right.
You've got a floor mat there, and a lot of times the floor mat, you don't even notice anything. It's under the floor mat or the two floor mats that you need to look at, put your hand on and touch it. And especially on the driver's side, on the E1 Cayennes, the harnesses that go from the battery to the alarm control units run underneath there. And the Porsche had a weird deal where they crimped wires together, and they didn't use any kind of solder and such. It was like a pressure crimp. And then with the water, and then they would just put some tape around it. Now the water gets in there and sits there for a while. It rots the connector to where your nice copper connector turns to green and it disintegrates. And then you'll get in your car one day and all of a sudden say, ignition lock faulty. And you're like, what's this? Ignition lock faulty. And it's basically because the wires rotted away and the power to the ignition lock system for Kessie is not working anymore. So you need to pull the carpet out, dry it out, and repair the wiring in it. There's like 3 crimps underneath there, and it's in the harness that you have to find and repair if you have this issue.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of our perennial parade goers, Gunnar Ment, his Cayenne suffered the same, and he had to do all sorts of wiring reconnections under that carpeted area.
Well, he lives in Hawaii. That's his problem.
You're mean. Yeah,
I like that. That's a good problem to have.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about is the AC drain for this
yes.
car. So let's Damon, I think you on this side, on the passenger side, you can open the door, and we should have a picture I saw earlier, Robert, of the condenser or AC drain on the interior. Yep, that's it. Oh, do you have the key? So let's talk about that.
Those are the same type system where it's a drain. It's very short, but they have a little flapper on the end of the drain, and the flappers, like they glue themselves together, and they just don't want to drain anymore. So you'll get the complaint of like, I've got water coming out of my AC system, or I have water on my feet, or it happens when I go around a corner, and that'll create a problem.
Yeah,
so take that out. I cut the flapper off, and then I use some of that silicone dielectric grease that gets everywhere, and put it back into place.
So do you run anything? Go back, Robert, not that photo. So right there, you pull that piece out. Do you run anything to clear it, or?
Yeah, it's very short. It's only 3 or 4 inches long. I just make sure it's clean all the way through. It doesn't take much, and then just cut off the end of it. I just put a little slit in it to basically do that. I've heard stories that if you cut off the whole end, you might get an aerodynamic whistle in the car. Let's say it doesn't have under tray's not on there. Air is going underneath the car. Air is going in that tube. Now it's coming through the vents, and you get this like whistle at freeway speeds because you cut the whole end of it off. So I just put a little V cut in there just to make sure water's going to be getting out of it. You're not going to have any debris or junk or crap or leaves or dirt in there. It's just water seems to seal that up.
And so it goes through the firewall, and it ends up in that same area behind the front tire, right?
It ends up in the engine compartment, kind of.
Yeah.
So it's right there at that firewall there behind the engine.
Okay. Now, is there a similar, exit point on the driver's side at the firewall, or is it just on the passenger?
It's only on one side, because that's where the AC condenser is, or the evaporator is right there on that passenger side right there. That's right above that point there is where the evaporator is. So when you run your air conditioning system, it drips water out of it. If you've sat at a stoplight or something, or sat your car in the driveway with it running, you'll see water dripping out, and you think, is there something wrong? No, that's normal. It's just like AC system. If you have an AC system, like a window AC in your house, and it runs for a while, there's water that comes out of it.
Okay.
So you get condensation on the system, and water drips off of it, and it has to go out somewhere. And it happens on the 997s. The newer cars haven't really seen anything go with 991s, but 997s, 996s, 986s, where they have a problem with the drains. So you're going to get water falling on your feet while you're driving typically.
All right. So I think we're done with the Cayenne. Should we bring in the 911 Cabriolet? You ready for that, Peter?
Sure.
All right. Let's close this up. Open the garage. Folks, give us a few minutes while we do a little set change here. Let's see. Let's take a look at questions. So we're going to be talking. We're going to bring in a 997 Cabriolet, but we're also going to be talking about Boxsters during that segment as well, because some of it is very similar. Let's talk about if your car does suffer, drain damage. Is it covered by insurance? I don't know the
Some
answer
insurance
to.
companies do cover it. We have had people come out and, give us estimates, and we've replaced carpets. The last one I did was a 997, and we replaced the carpeting on both sides and the alarm control unit. The alarm control unit melted to the point it bubbled up in places. And this one had no spoiler, and the taillights were on all the time, but it smelled horrible in the car. So the insurance company paid for new carpeting, and we put new carpets in the car back, the floor carpeting and the seat back carpeting, replaced it for the customer.
And I know that we've had a local region member here where his Boxster was totaled because of the amount of work that was required to fix it from being flooded.
I could see the alarm control unit, and it depends on how much water got into the car. It sounds like a lot of water, or maybe it was a really old Boxster that wasn't worth that much. But, I mean, it's, I could see an alarm control unit going bad. Yeah, I have to see exactly what they did to the car. But we get a lot of water in the car. I mean, I have a couple of Boxsters, and actually what I've done, which a lot of people say don't do it because the integrity of the body and such, is I drill a 1/2-inch hole right on the floor at the firewall of the fender back there, footwell, to kind of let water drain just in case I get any water in there.
Wow. Yeah, and a lot of times when you look, if you go to buy a convertible or you buy a Boxster, you really should lift that that rear seat floor mat to see if there's discoloration or anything like that, because that will be definitely a telltale sign.
Yeah,
all right,
one
so,
thing
yeah, go ahead.
those carpets hold water forever.
Yeah,
it's
like a sponge.
They're worse than a sponge.
Yeah.
I mean, we've left them outside in the sun hanging for a couple of days, and there's still water in them.
Yeah. All right, so we have a 997 cab. I think it's an 09 here. And we'll start from the front. Same issues, cowling and drains up here?
Yes, the drains are on the top. You can actually get them from the top. You don't go down below.
Oh, okay. We'll see if we can pop this open here. Okay, so these panels.
So you pop out the battery cover first.
Yep.
And then you can lift up that, and then you can see down right next to the battery down on either side. There's a little black near the firewall.
We did not stage this, folks. You got to come see this because this one happens to have a plugged. You can see how gross it is. Damon, can you show it in there? Maybe grab your camera and get real close. You can see, look at it, it's all plugged up. It's all plugged up right there. And it's pooling actually water. And this car hasn't sat outside in the rain very much, so there's not that much rain in the cow. But yeah, this owner is going to want to clean it off because it is plug solid. Now, do those pull up?
There's one on each. Those you can pop those out. You can drop them out if you want to, or clean them out if you want. You can put your finger in there and clean it out.
Oh, it's gross. Yeah, it's plugged. And
there's one on both. There's one on both sides.
Okay, so we'll need to tell the owner of this car to clear their drains. All right, folks. So you saw that live, legit. Clear your drains. All right, so Damon, if you can get on the other side, what we've done for everyone is Peter wanted to show you the drains on this cab, and so we took off the rear speaker grill, and we've taken off the rear speaker mount, and then we've removed, this was a shield that was sitting in here like this, and you take that off, and here, hopefully you can see with my finger, here's the drain line, and it just ends here. It's just an open-ended hose that pours water into this little collector tray. And so I guess that's where stuff gets clogged up, Peter?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Stuff gets into that, and it actually drains out just in front of the rear wheels behind the fender liner there. So that's more of a pain to clear out than anything else because it's kind of hidden back there.
So when this gets clogged, typically, is it clogged like in this section of the pipe? Or
no, it's clogged down where it goes through the body and out to the back of the car. So where you're inside that tray there is where it gets plugged up.
So how do you clear it?
That's another one where you got to use like air and be careful. It's not as touchy as the roof drains.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't go very far either. The roof drains go, a couple, 3 feet. This is only goes 10 inches or so because it exits out pretty quick.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so now we know where the drains go. Now, I had called you about a week ago where a guy was saying his car's rear spoiler was going up and down erratically, and he hadn't even told, or I hadn't told you what model car he had, and you basically said, so he drives a cab. You already knew the answer.
I've seen this story before.
Yeah, and so it fills up this cavity and then ends up on the back floor behind the driver's and passenger seats. And unfortunately, what's below there?
They're typically, on the passenger side, not a whole lot. There's typically an amplifier there on the passenger side, which you don't really notice as much. But on the driver's side is where the rear end control unit is. It controls the spoiler, brake lights, a lot of alarm functions. That's right in front of that little piece of carpet right there on the floor. It's a small little box, but it can cause a lot of problems.
Wow.
And that's where you would pull up the carpet just to see, right where the footwell is, where it goes vertical. You'd pull that little piece of carpet up just below the seat pad in the back and see if it's wet underneath there.
I think Damon.
So you can put your hand down there.
Is it wet? This car hasn't been outside much, so.
Okay.
And this car came from Texas, so. But so even this car probably was garage. Who knows? But like I said, it's been exposed enough to clog the front drains. So, I mean, you better check all the drains, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so does the network of hoses or the drainage work back here on a 911, 997 similar to a Boxster? Because I know a Boxster has like this foam tray underneath that collects and guides all the waters to the corners of the car, and then it joins the other tube and then exit. Is it the same with this car?
It's similar but different. I mean, they basically have the drain. You can see the drain tube right there in the middle on the right towards the front or side of the car, the driver's side of the car. That black tube, that's the main drain to get the water out of the back of the car when it comes in around the top and such. And some of the problems that I've seen, let's say you've got a top that the push rods break, and they used to do that all the time in the Boxers. Push rod breaks, the piece falls off, and it's perfectly sized to drop right into that hole and block the water drain.
You mean the ball socket portion?
The ball socket would break off, it would crack off, break, it would fall right in that hole, and it's just a perfect size to where it would just block that hole and nothing would drain out of it. So some people it's crazy. There's a start of it as it gets to it. I took 3 pictures as you're kind of looking into it, and as you get further into it, that's looking down into it from a Boxster point, and there's the hole right there. And you can see to the left, there's a part of a push rod right there, and there's a white ball socket typically that breaks off. That's down on the front portion of that pivot arm that you can't see right now. But that ball socket would break off, and it'd fall right into that hole, and boom, you've got a water leak. So you can look down that with a flashlight and see it.
The other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, like when you work on a Boxster and you take, that top cover off so that you can access your engine, you do remove that foam piece as well, right?
No, that stays all in there. The only thing we tape off is the carpeted part.
Yeah.
That stays all right there. That doesn't do anything. Another problem is too is when those rods break, we've had them to where the rods would pierce that foam area. And then now you think you've got this full rod. It's a water retention system. And so what happens is that the rod would come down, it would cut the foam, and then now you've got a water leak into the car.
Yeah, so then you have to patch that up with something.
Correct. Or replace it.
Or get a whole new foam piece.
Correct. And you have to take the roof off to do that. The convertible top assembly has to come out to replace that.
Oh, wow. So I noticed, I don't know if Damon can see the side here. On the fender, the rear quarters of this car, I see some holes on this. Can you see this, Damon? Right here. Is that also, I'm assuming that's a drain, and where does that go?
Yeah, that's just little drains. It just drips out through the side of the car. It doesn't really go into a tube. It just kind of drains out.
Okay, gotcha. So that's not something you would clear out?
No, I wouldn't worry about that one.
Okay. Now, anything in the back section back here? Or?
No, because that water tray system is all geared up to the back side. It'll go to either the left or the right, and it'll drain out to the car.
So everything from this area that drains is going to end up down here on the
right.
side.
But when the top's up like this, it might be a good time to go look at it and see if there's any leaves or any junk that's under there that might get into something that you don't want to have happen. Mm-hmm. So you can pull up a little bit, and they have cables to retain it to keep it from going up so far. But you can take a look inside and see if there's anything there.
Okay. Wow.
So it's a pretty good system.
What about like Caymans that don't have sunroofs? Obviously, they don't have a convertible top. Do they have drains that you have to worry about?
They have drains in the front, but in the back, nothing.
Nothing? Okay. So I'm guessing half the issues then.
Pretty much.
Yeah. All right. How are we doing on time? Anything else about this car? I can't believe we found a plugged up drain. We couldn't have planned that better. Huh. Anything else on 997s? 996 is the same thing?
Pretty much 996, 997, same car, just a little different.
What about 991s? And you probably haven't played with 992s so much.
No, not so much with the 992s. 991s, we haven't really seen any drains go bad. I haven't had to look at anything. I would imagine after 30 years of making convertibles, they figured out, hey, maybe we should try something different. So I think they've got it right finally. But the funny thing is that if you actually like a 993 Targa and a 996 Targa, if you actually had rain and you put your hands inside of the back glass, you will feel water running through it because they actually had a little river trough built in the back of the car for water to drain out for the Targa roof.
Ooh, Robert just showed this picture. What's that all about?
That looks like the front trunk of a 996 or something, 997, or 997 actually.
So yeah. that's from two plugged cowl drains. Like you can get that much water in it.
God, that looks like a lot of water for that area there. I mean, typically the cowl drains, it'll go into the passenger compartment before it's going to go into the front there.
Oh.
I'm trying to think how that would have happened.
Huh.
That's a crazy one.
Let's see. We have some more questions here. If you don't have any, speak to clearing the sunroof drains on a 997.1 car. From John Jarabek.
The thing is just to run water through it and see if it comes out. I mean, if you pour water through the front drain, you put the sunroof back, you'll see the holes on either side. Get like a little bottle of water and just pour water into it and see if it drains out on the floor. If you don't see it drain on the floor, I mean, like I said, how we do it is just use compressed air with a rubber tip nozzle and really light air, just to kind of get it through. If you use too much, you'll hear it pop off.
Then
you
put your hands to your head.
Yeah, and you get your checkbook out.
So do you think, I've seen some people talk about running like hot water, maybe with like a little light detergent, like soap or something. Do you think that works, or is that just an internet thing?
I think that sounds like an internet thing. Hot water, maybe if you want to dissolve something. I don't think soap will do a whole lot because you're not doing any scrubbing. You're running it down a tube. I think just maybe hot water would be better to kind of dissolve. If there's any hard dirt or hard mud, something like that, you want to dissolve it, I would probably go with some hot water. But you want to see if it's good or not, or if it's a problem. So there's really not that many sunroof issues with the 997s or the 996s.
We have a question from John Riley asking if there are any drains on an 86 Targa other than, and I don't mean to make fun, but 86 Targas, the Targa roof themselves don't seal that well. So,
no, as far as I know, there's no drains on a Targa. It's just seals.
Just seals, right? Yeah.
Just seals on either side, and it was a horrible design. But yeah, that's it. There's nothing there.
Tell me how you really feel. It's not a terrible design. It was just a design that was maybe, not perfected yet.
No, I had one, which wasn't bad. You took the top off, you folded it up, put it in the front trunk.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to go do that.
Well, I mean, I guess you have to think about, I personally, as a daily driver car parked outside, I don't think I would go with a cabriolet. I mean, it's just, you're taking kind of a big chance. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, in California, we don't have that big problem.
Okay, all right, fine. So it depends on where you live. If you live in Maryland where there's tons of leaves, there's snow, there's rain, a cabriolet parked outside year round, I'm sure it's doable. And I know many of our members do daily drive and have their cars outside. But, in that kind of harsh condition, I would definitely take a coupe. If I lived in sunny California like you, yeah, definitely daily drive a cab, no problem.
Yes, I agree.
So tell us, any drains on the Taycan?
Their roofs don't open. So,
Oh yeah, no sunroofs on a Taycan.
yeah, I think really it's an open cowling in the front, so there's no real drains out there. The back, haven't really taken that much apart. I don't really want to either. There are a handful right now. We have a big campaign going on to do a lot of updates to the Taycans. We're updating almost 100 control units over a 9-hour period. So I'm doing an update right now, and after we're done here, I have to go up and finish stage 2 of 5. So it's a fun time.
So allow me to take a little bit of a detour. When you first started working on Porsches, what models were you working on?
When I started working on it, I started working on Porsche in 1980 at the dealer, and I was working on SEs and it's like I went to one of the first 944 classes in 1982, March of 1982 down in LA, which was a lot of fun. And I remember one of the most exciting days I saw was when the 84 Carrera showed up, and there was no CIS, no lines. It was just electronic. It was like an airflow meter and electric injectors, and look at this, we have all-fed tensioners. It was a joyous day.
Well, if you think back to those cars, at how little of wiring and electronic boxes, there's like one DME underneath the driver's seat, and standard wires that go to your window regulators. Like, it was really simple. Now you fast forward to the Taycan, and the amount of wiring and digital switches and CAN bus, probably like the last thing that you want to introduce water to.
Correct. And you look at it too, without the invention of the CAN bus systems and the networks, and we have Flextronics also, that's another system. With all the CAN systems we have in the car, where everything talks over single wire or dual wire, twisted pairs, all that information gets back and forth with just 2 wires instead of 20 or 30 wires. The car would probably weigh another 500 pounds more if you went with the old school individual wires to every controls unit. But with the invention of the CAN systems, it's a little bit better and a little bit worse. Yeah. But now you have, instead of one control unit talking to one, we have, every control unit talks to everything. So it's a lot more complex than it used to be. I used to be a mechanic, now I'm an electrical engineer.
Yeah, well, I've seen some of, our buddy, Mr. Jack Murphy, the instructor down in Southern California, and all of the presentations that he teaches these young mechanics. I mean, you are going to electrical engineering school to fix these cars.
Yeah, we're high voltage experts. So we can, we're able to go disable a vehicle if something's, with the Taycan right now, they're 800 volt batteries, and it's 800 volts DC. And if we do something wrong or something's not right and we touch the wrong thing, we're pretty much dead instantly. There's no if, and, or about. Basically, it melts your internals. So 800 volts DC is way different than 800 volts AC. So that's why we go through a lot of precautions, a lot of testing. When we disable a system, we have to do voltage checks to make sure that everything's disabled so you're not melting yourself, basically. So we almost take it for granted now because we do so much electrical work with the hybrids. Yeah. At least I do. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to check the voltages here. Okay, good. I can go work on it.
So back to drains, if you don't mind. We have a question from Vin B. Where can one get the illustrations for, where the drains are in your car?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We get stuff. We don't get great stuff. We get some stuff from what we call SITs, Service Information Technique, which that looks like a picture out of an SIT. The good place probably right now is on the web. There's so much information on the web. The bad thing is you got to disseminate what you're looking for, and hopefully you can find it. Yeah. You'll look for something and go, oh, this is what I found, but you look through 40 pages before you found it. So it's how you type it in and what you're looking for. Some places are really good. I know Pelican Parts has a REN list. There's a lot of places out there that have a lot of information from a lot of people that get stuff. Yeah, look at that. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Okay. So there's stuff out on the web.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you have trouble finding them, you can reach out to the PCA Tech Committee or reach out to our PCA technical director, send a message, send it to admin@pca.org if you want, and if you can't find it, we'll help you find it. There's many places to look. We have a message from Carrie Myers. They're drain brushes that are flexible cables that you can buy on Amazon. Is that something you would suggest?
That sounds like something. I was thinking like a speedometer cable, something with a bristle at the end of it,
Yeah.
which would be good. I mean, it sounds like just like a roto-rooter type thing, but a
Yeah.
lot smaller scale. So that would probably work out pretty well.
But be careful. Don't force it, right? Like if you're
Once
pushing
it
things
stops,
along,
yep.
if it stops, like back up and then try again, but don't force it through because the end of your piece there might be pushing up against a connector, and you don't want to force that connector apart from the tube or the line. So
Right.
as long as it's a smooth and easy process, because if you're just pushing dirt and debris, like that stuff will move, right? So that shouldn't require much pressure. If you, don't add a lot of pressure. That would be asking for trouble. Let's see. Does converting a soft top cab to a hard top raise any unique drain challenges? So I guess if you, like this 997, you have a soft top and then you go and you have the hard top put on. Any issues there?
No, because basically it covers all that up. So you don't really have the same issues at all.
Okay.
So you won't have that. It'll seal up perfectly. You won't have any problems with the drains at all with the hard top on the car when the convertible top's down.
So that's, maybe when if you have a hard top, fall, winter, where there's going to be a lot of moisture on the car, that's one of the benefits of having a hard top. Very cool.
Correct.
Wow. Anything else for our viewers tonight, Mr. Smith?
Not that I can think of. Not at this moment.
It's always great to see your lovely face.
You're
We
so
should
sweet.
be hopefully together soon again at Porsche Parade or maybe at a Works reunion. Yes, that's right. You've got your Works reunion shirt. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed tonight's format, seeing 3 different cars, us moving things around. Of course, talking with Peter Smith. He's just an encyclopedia of Porsche knowledge. And I hope you're safe out there. We'll see you next time. Be well. Bye, everyone.
Be well.